Okay, let's dive in. Picture this. You're looking at Solos, this distant planet.
Yeah.
Seems like a typical Earth control situation, right? Standard outpost stuff.
Right. But then you start peeling back the layers,
Right.
and the story the sources tell gets, well, a lot weirder, much more complex than you first think.
Exactly. And our listener, you've given us materials that really zero in on this. A conflict brewing between Earth's admin there and the native Solonians.
And right at the center of it all is this thing they keep calling mutation.
Yeah, and what's great is the mix of sources. We've got these narrative bits, almost like scenes playing out, giving us different angles on what's happening.
So our mission today really is to unpack this conflict, get a handle on the mystery of these mutations, and, think about the implications for everyone involved, Solonians and Earth.
Okay, so where do things stand when the story picks up? The sources immediately throw us into this oppressive feeling on Solos. Literally, even.
Yeah, you meet the Marshal, he's in charge for Earth, and his attitude towards the Solonians, he calls them mutts. It's just harsh.
Brutal, really. And it seems almost normal. Like, his aides, Stubbs and Cotton, they go along with it, but you get the sense they're just tired of it all, the constant violence.
It suggests things have been bad for a while, possibly escalating.
Plus, Solos itself isn't exactly welcoming for humans. They need oxymasks just to survive outside.
That detail hits home, doesn't it? Sets a stage of discomfort, difficulty, maybe hints that Earth's whole setup there is precarious.
And you hear Cotton mention, almost under his breath, wishing they'd granted independence years back.
That little line speaks volumes. Suggests a long, simmering backstory of colonial tension that's about to boil over.
Then, completely out of the blue, the Doctor and Joe Grant show up on Skybase.
Skybase being the main Earth station, right?
Right, and the Doctor's identified as UNIT's scientific advisor. So you immediately think, okay, this isn't just politics or military, there's a science angle here.
Exactly. Their arrival is key because they're outsiders. They have no idea what's going on. They get detained.
Puts them, and us listening, in a position of trying to figure things out from scratch.
And it disrupts the status quo. How do the existing powers react to these newcomers?
Well, we quickly see the other side. We meet Kai, a Solonian resistance leader.
And he's confronting Varan, who's the chief native administrator, but seems to be working with the Earth Overlords. That's what the Solonians call them.
That term overloads itself says a lot about the power dynamic, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And Kai doesn't hold back. He accuses the Overlord's Earth of murder, of lies, specifically about these mutations affecting his people.
He clearly thinks Earth is behind it all.
But Varan, he pushes back hard. He thinks the mutants are cursed, that they need to be wiped out.
So there's this deep split within the Solonians themselves about what's happening. Really painful.
And then things get visually strange. Varan's bodyguard, his hand just transforms into this reptilian claw.
Whoa. Okay, so that's the first really concrete evidence. Is not just talk. These mutations are real and dramatic.
Undeniably real. Makes you instantly question what kind of biological process could even do that.
All right, now the plot really starts to thicken. We get hints of conspiracy.
Yeah, this secret meeting. The Marshal pulls Varan aside, gives him a secret mission, a coded pass, even a weapon.
What's he hiding? Especially from Earth Council, it feels like he's going rogue.
It definitely suggests he's not playing straight with his own superiors. And then, right on cue, an administrator from Earth Council arrives.
And his focus is this upcoming independence conference. So suddenly there's this official political pressure that the Marshal probably doesn't want.
Not at all. And this administrator, he's sharp. He's already suspicious of the Marshal.
And he connects the dots, doesn't he? He suspects the Marshal's atmospheric experiments are linked to the mutations.
Yes. That's a massive moment. It validates what Kai was saying and raises the stakes incredibly high.
Meanwhile, the Marshal's digging his heels in about independence. Believes Earth knows best, needs to stay in control, that colonial mindset.
Which sets up his next move, this really cynical manipulation.
He basically orders Varan to kill the administrator.
And frame Kai for it. It's ruthless. He's trying to eliminate the political threat and decapitate the Solonian resistance in one go.
Talk about escalation. He's using Varan's fear and the existing tensions just to consolidate his own power.
Exactly. So the Independence Conference dissolves into chaos. The assassination happens. Kai gets blamed. Pandemonium.
And the Doctor and Joe were caught right in the thick of it, trying to help, trying to understand.
But their attempts just pull them deeper into the Marshal's web, really.
Which leads to Joe and Kai escaping, down to the planet's surface.
And suddenly that toxic atmosphere becomes critical. Joe's completely vulnerable without a mask. It's life or death.
Right, raises the immediate stakes. And down there, in hiding, they find Professor Sondergaard.
Ah, Sondergaard, the long-lost Earth researcher living in the mines. He's been there for ages studying Solonian history.
He's the missing piece, isn't he? He has the knowledge.
He does. And he and Kai start putting it together. They become convinced that Earth tech, the Marshal's experiments specifically, are causing these transformations, twisting them into something horrific.
Which is the complete opposite of the Marshal story, that they're just a plague to be wiped out.
It's a fundamental clash of interpretations. Extermination versus, well, something else. Something possibly caused by Earth itself.
So the Doctor, meanwhile, he's doing his own digging back on Skybase, finds ancient Solonian scrolls.
And starts working with Sondergaard to figure them out. This collaboration is crucial.
And the big reveal. It's stunning.
It really is. The scrolls show the mutations. They aren't a disease. Not at all.
They're a metamorphosis, a natural part of the Solonian life cycle.
Happening over these incredibly long 500-year seasons. It's adaptation, evolution.
Wow. So what Earth saw as decay was actually change.
Yeah.
A natural step. That completely reframes everything.
It does, and it highlights this massive blind spot, right?
Yeah.
Judging something alien by human standards, seeing difference as disease.
And the Marshall's experiments?
They've thrown a wrench in the works, accelerated the process, distorted it, creating these painful partial transformations. The mutants.
And then there's the crystal, found in a radiation cave.
Yes, left by the old ones. The scrolls mention them as this earlier, maybe more advanced stage of Solonian evolution. The crystal seems key to the proper transformation.
So maybe the current Solonians are meant to change, to become like these old ones.
That seems to be the implication. It's a cycle.
While all this is being uncovered, Varen, he starts mutating himself.
Tragically, yes. And driven by revenge and misunderstanding, fueled by the Marshal's lies, he tries to attack Skybase. It's just futile.
But we see a shift in others, Stubbs and Cotton.
They finally seem to see the Marshal for what he is, his brutality, his desperation. It becomes too much.
They start questioning, and eventually they actually side with the Doctor. Bit of conscience there.
Which pushes the Marshal further. He gets more desperate, tries to execute the Doctor's friends, uses unstable tech. He's losing control.
It all builds to this climax in the radiation chamber. Kai, the Thesium radiation you mentioned, and the crystal.
Right. We don't get the hard science on Thesium, but it clearly interacts with the crystal in a specific way needed for the change.
And it works. Kai transforms.
Into this radiant being. Telepathic, like the old ones described in the scrolls. It's the next stage of Solonian evolution, finally realized.
A profound moment. Not just for him, but for Solos.
And just in time, Kai, in his new form, steps in, saves the Doctor.
It exposes the Marshal, right as the investigator from Earth Council arrives. Perfect timing.
Couldn't be better. The investigator sees the truth firsthand. The Marshal's whole house of cards just collapses.
Plus, Yeager reveals the ionization rockets failed.
Right.
And contaminated the planet.
Yes. Another layer of the Marshal's incompetence and disregard for Solos laid bare. His fate is sealed.
So he faces the music, loses control completely.
And the ending feels hopeful. A new beginning for Solus seems possible, with Kai as this evolved guide, and Earth's grip finally loosened.
So looking back at this whole deep dive, it started seeming like one thing, a straightforward conflict, but it's so much more.
Absolutely. It's a story about the dangers of colonial power, exploitation, yeah, but also about fundamentally misunderstanding life different from our own.
And the power of knowledge, of resistance against that oppression.
For me, the big aha moment is definitely realizing the mutations weren't the problem. They were the point, the natural process. Human interference was the actual disease distorting it.
And we saw it all through so many eyes. The Marshal's ruthless ambition, Kai's fight for his people, the Doctor's curiosity, Sondergaard's slow piecing together of the truth.
Each perspective was vital to understanding the whole messy picture.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? About our responsibilities when we go out there, when we meet the truly alien.
How do we stop ourselves from imposing our ideas, our fears, onto things we don't understand? How do we avoid becoming the overlords? It's a huge question about colonialism, environmental impact, and just the nature of change itself, something to really mull over.